Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We come to you live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app. Coming up on the show today, the NFL schedule has been released, so how should you attack it? Evan Abrams will join and share his findings on that. Plus, in baseball, AL East, NL East, where do these teams stand? We're going to talk to Charlie DiSturco about that. And as always, we'll have plenty of picks throughout the show. But we're going to start in the NBA. For the first time since 2020, the Nuggets have advanced to the Western Conference Finals, beating the Suns, who have fallen short of a title the last 3 years as a 2 seed, 1 seed, and 4 seed, respectively. Here was Monty Williams after the Game 6 loss.
81 points in the first half was deflating to just see them score like that and, running down the floor, getting easy buckets. That falls on my shoulders, not having us ready to play at the highest level in the biggest game of the year, bottom line. And to your point, that's just not who we are and who we've been.
All right, let's say hello to Sean Little now. You know him from the Buckets podcast. By the way, sick background. Sean, what stands out to you about this Suns team getting bounced by the Nuggets? Because Monty Williams says it's not who they've been, but they've been this the last 3 years.
What's up, MM? Yeah, it's not who they've been because the team that he was playing with hasn't been around that long. Obviously, we know he got gutted. Kevin Durant. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Kevin Durant only played 19 games for the Suns. Overall, they just didn't have the roster, the depth to compete with the Denver Nuggets. I think the story is more about Denver. I'm not sure if Monty Williams is the fit, and I don't know if DeAndre Ayton will be back or if Chris Paul will be back. That's going to be the difference. We'll see how that shakes. But overall, this team didn't have enough talent on the roster to make a actual real run in the West. I was blinded by the aura of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I did pick them to come out of the West, but this is going to be the off season to retool and get some depth around Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. This is more about Jokic and the Nuggets. I mean, we talk about Jason Tatum, how poorly he played the first 3 quarters last night. We talk a lot of is Harden going to show up? What's Embiid going to do? This guy, Nikola Jokic, shows up every single game and puts in a shift. Jamal Murray compliments him really well. KCP played off the chain last night as well in a closeout game. They have a deep roster. Even Christian Braun, the young kid from Kansas, is a dog off the bench, plays extremely well. Great defense. This is more about Denver to me than Monty Williams trying to work through a depleted roster and Durant only having 19 games to gel.
I'm really glad that you're giving the Nuggets their flowers
Yeah.
because I admit I'm a little bit hating on the Suns right now. And we're going to talk about the Nuggets as they continue to advance throughout these playoffs. But I think it's interesting that Kevin Durant, his last few playoff trips, he has been marred by the lack of continuity with his teammates. When he was in Brooklyn, you had people coming back from injury or Kyrie, in and out of the lineup. And here again, the continuity or lack thereof, has hurt Kevin Durant. But I just feel like, so 2 years ago, Suns go all the way to the finals. They lose 4 straight to the Bucks. I got to say, I was questioning Monty Williams at that point. And then last year, a 1 seed. We know about the embarrassing early exit to the Mavericks. So I do think there are some questions there for Monty as well. But definitely looking forward to see who else they surround Booker and Durant with. All right, my rant's over. Let's get into the elimination games we have tonight. So first up, the Heat trying to close out the Knicks. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is going to be a very tall task for the Knicks to go into Miami and get a W. The number has been bouncing around 6.5 points, depending on where you're looking. But I think there's an opportunity for those guys to go down and compete, and we know the story. Home teams in Game 7s tend to win. So maybe the Miami Heat are under a ton of pressure and feel that at home, and the Knicks can can continue to compete. Can you feel my bias there, Maria? You feel me leaning to the Knicks right there. I hope the Knicks can go in and pull it off. I think it's going to be tough for Miami. To get into my best bet for this game, though, I like Kevin Love over 1.5 threes minus 130, and I'm also going to sprinkle that plus 3 threes plus 210. Since March 13th, he's played 10 home games. In those 10 home games, he's hit 2 threes plus, and 8 of 10 of those. The Heat are just getting up a lot of threes versus the Knicks. They're making the right pass. They're rotating the rock. The Heat shot 43 threes in Game 5 at the Garden. They're averaging 37 attempts here in the playoffs. I think they'll continue to get looks. Kevin Love coming off a 0 of 7 performance last time out in the Garden in Game 5. I think he bounces back, hits a couple, and potentially 3. I like both.
You know, it's so funny. As you were saying that, I'm like, he is due for a bounce back, right? Because he was abysmal from 3 at the Garden. And I thought to myself, what was he from 3? And you answered it for me. 0 of 7 from 3 for Kevin Love the last game. And we talked about this last time you were on the show, I believe, just the Scott Foster effect. This is a stat that we've had, around Action Network, probably provided by Evan Abrams, who's going to join us in our next segment. But he'd have lost 10 straight games. Scott Foster is officiating. So interesting there. You know, the extender is back. But by the way, as far as your Knicks bias, I mean, it's literally on the wall behind you. So it's fine. All right, Warriors on the road, where they have the lowest ATS win percentage for any team since at least 1995, also according to our research team. Can they force Game 7?
I don't think so. I like the Lakers here to close it out. I think overall defensively, the Lakers have been impacting a lot of stuff at the rim led by Anthony Davis. And I think it's similarly to the spot with like the Phoenix Suns where they didn't have enough. I don't think Golden State has enough offensively. They're going to need too much from Steph Curry, from Klay Thompson. We would need, if I'm a Warriors fan, to get Wiggins involved like he did in the last game. It's going to be tough on the road. I think the role players have been playing sensational for the Los Angeles Lakers. We know about Lonnie Walker. We know about Austin Reeves and those guys. This is a game where LeBron puts his impact on the floor as well. I like the Lakers to close it out and get the W versus the Warriors. It is going to be a very interesting spot because it kind of feels like one of those Game 6 spots, just like Philadelphia last night, where they don't want to go on the road in Game 7. I think they want to close it out here now, and LeBron and AD are going to be focused on doing that. Glad to hear AD is healthy. I think they get the win.
Yeah, this is sort of a stay away spot for me because we know the trend. Like I said, the road record, ATS 14-33, which is 29.8% for the Warriors. But, you know, can they buck that trend? I don't think so, just because I think this is who the Warriors are, to your point. But because it's Steph Curry, it's like I'm just not 100% sure, but definitely excited to watch. Sean Little, thanks for stopping by, my friend.
Always. Thank you for having me.
Moving over to the NFL, here are some notable matchups from the schedule, which was just released yesterday. You got Lions at Chiefs opening night. November 5th, Bills and Bengals. Super Bowl rematch later that month. Eagles and Niners early December. And Bengals Chiefs in the new year. With that, we bring in our Director of Research, Evan Abrams. You wrote a comprehensive breakdown of the schedule for Action Network. And one thing that you've noted is the Chiefs, projected to be favored in every game this season, while the Cardinals are projected to be underdogs in every game. What else have you found?
So thankfully, Scott Foster not reffing Lions Chiefs opening game, so we can avoid that. But I think one fun question to enter into that game is a little trivia. So who is the most profitable quarterback against a spread in week 1 over the last 20 years? Crickets. It's not Patrick Mahomes. It's actually Jared Goff. So Goff is 6-0 against the spread, the only undefeated quarterback in week 1 more than 3 or 4 starts. He's gotten there. He's 4-2. He's 0-2 straight up with the Lions, but he has covered both of those games. Honestly, I think the interesting play with this open nighter is +7. It's actually disappearing from the market as we sit here, as you're kind of getting down to 6.5. but I think getting that 7 in that game, a little backdoor action, is possible. The one note you also kind of have to know here is Mahomes, 13-3 straight up, only 9-7 against the spread in September in his career, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 ATS in openers. So tends to get it done, but that number is a little aggressive.
Well, it's interesting because I remember these talking points from last year with the Chiefs not being a great team ATS, and meanwhile the Lions being a very good team ATS. So I'll be looking forward to that. And by the way, how cool is it that you can bet this far in advance? It's like the beauty of the NFL that you already have these week 1 spreads, which is amazing. Any other week 1 spreads jump out to you?
Yeah, so I think we kind of have to look at the biggest spread on the board, and it's not a double-digit favorite. It's actually right now about 9.5, and that is the Ravens and Lamar Jackson against Houston Texans. And I think the one note that's interesting, and we kind of talked about this last year, John Harbaugh and preparation tends to work together. So he is 11-4 against the spread in week 1s, and with 10+ days rest, he is 24-8 straight up, 18-12-2 against the spread. He is the best the best coach in our database in week 1s. He just does a great job with prep. And this 9.5, you might look at it initially and be like, that's a little high, but I think under 10 probably is the safe play there. I think they come out fast, and I think they store a ton of points on this Houston defense. So I think Baltimore right now is the right side, but hey, we got like 6 months. We'll figure it out.
That's true, but I do think that Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson are going to want to hush up the haters real quick after this crazy offseason and just kind of show like, hey, we're back, we're whole, and we're going to be just fine. And speaking of, crazy off seasons, the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, they're headlining a lot of these matchups that we've seen. But the talk has kind of been how this is a tough start for the Jets.
Yeah, so they didn't give Aaron Rodgers any presents. They didn't give him any favors. So in the first 6 weeks of the year, their first 6 games, they face top 4 scoring teams, and it's not going to be good. It's Buffalo, it's Dallas, it's Kansas City, it's Philly. Not great. And especially when you look at projected wins for those 6 teams, all 7 or more. Again, for those teams, 9 or more. Not great for Aaron Rodgers. He's going to have to start fast. Here's one interesting note. So in 119 home starts at Lambeau Field for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, he was only a home underdog 8 times. He was 6-1-1 against the spread in those games. And here we go. Week 1, first game, right now listed as a home underdog against the Bills. So new role, New York, different scenario. So we'll see how that rolls.
Yeah, and a different scenario for Aaron Rodgers in the sense that he is in the AFC now, and the AFC has been a much tougher conference than the NFC. So you're right, he's not getting any presents, but this is going to be an exciting time for Jets fans. And look, if you haven't, you got to go check out Evan's article because you have literally 30 different notes with stats and trends. So there is so much to take in and just so many more nuggets that'll help you get a nice early advantage in this betting market for the NFL season. Evan, thank you so much for joining us.
Enjoy the day.
Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. To NHL, a pair of Game 5s tonight. First, the Panthers and Maple Leafs with the home team favored, but 80% of money is coming in on the Florida money line as the Panthers try to close things out. Meanwhile, 90% of money is on the Edmonton side with that series tied 2-2. For our hockey analysts, Michael Leboff and Nick Martin, how they bet the nightcap will largely depend on who's in goal for the Knights. They explain on the Line Change podcast.
If Jonathan Quick is in goal for Vegas tomorrow, I would love every bit of Edmonton. I would love, -2.5s. I'd love, whatever, same game parlays with the over, goal scorer, Palooza, like whatever you want to do. Go have yourself a night backing the Oilers.
Yeah, so Quick's -17.2 goals saved above expected rating is the 5th worst in the league this season. His save percentage was .882. So And I mean, when he
He
was with
played
the
for
Kings,
decent.
that's what I was going to say. The
Yeah.
Kings were a good defensive team too. Like they're not a team where I'm looking at those numbers and being like he was getting sewered more than these analytics are suggesting, which is something I would say about like goalies from Columbus and teams like that. I don't think that was happening. So who knows? Like he had a couple good games right when he got to Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, goaltending's
So
hard to predict, but
if you're looking at these two goalies and you're like, who's giving me the better chance? Like if I was to bet Edmonton right now, I would feel so much better if they tapped Quick than Hill, and that's what I'll be waiting for, because if it is Quick, like I think you can have yourself a really fun time with some Oilers stuff.
To baseball now, and let's welcome in a special guest, junior predictive analyst here at Action Network, Billy Ward. Billy, it's been a while. Good to see you again. So you recently wrote about how to pick NRFIs, aka no-run first innings, and vice versa. Can you just summarize your model for us?
Yeah, this was a big, football offseason project for me, and I went down a lot of different directions trying to figure out the way that we could project these. But what I ultimately settled at is we know about how many runs are going to be scored in a game, right? We have the game total, we have the team totals that markets give us. So all we need to do from there is figure out when those runs are most likely to be scored. And I went through a ton of different stuff. Is it going to be warmer in the first inning than the ninth? But it ultimately didn't have to end up being that complicated. All I'm using now is the pitchers splits their first time through the order, since obviously the first inning will be their first time through the order. Most pitchers do a little bit better the first time through, but not all, and there's a lot of variability within that. So some pitchers are lights out the first time through, then kind of gradually slow down. Some pitchers, it's a lot closer. So then I can use that, and then what percentage of the runs the top three hitters from each team scores. Obviously, the top three hitters have to come up in the first inning, and for there to be a first inning run, one of those three has to come across the plate. So again, that's something that varies pretty heavily by teams. You get a team like the Angels with Trout and Ohtani, their top three hitters produce most of their scoring, where some teams are more balanced through and through. So then we multiply that out with the total runs we think we're going to get, and that gives me a percentage chance of a run in the first inning or not.
All right, I got you. So now that we kind of have an understanding of how to do this, we're going to ask you for your picks tonight, or for Friday's slate, I should say. But I am curious, like what you just described, do you go through every single game and just see like what stands out?
So prior to the season, I built a database of every pitcher's splits their first time through the order versus overall. And then I did the same thing with hitters. And just as we've gone through the year, I've updated that to include 2023 data. That's a little bit of a challenge with pitchers. One or two starts doesn't tell us much. But with the hitters, I just have a database of each team's splits. So then it's pretty automated from there. I just need to put in who's starting pitching, what the matchups are, and then what the game lines are. And it kind of figures out from there mean runs that we can expect.
Sounds like you would be a good follow on the Action app with with all that going on. But who you got for today?
Yeah, so the first one I'm looking at is the Astros White Sox yes at -110 at BetMGM. This is a really good example of what I was talking about. The White Sox starter is Michael Kopech. He's actually worse his first time through the order using 2022 and 2023 stats rolled together, which isn't common, but it's not unheard of that sometimes pitchers just do better once they get settled in a little bit. Obviously, being worse early in the game makes it more likely that there's a first inning run. And that works out nicely because Houston's top three accounts for 48% of their scoring. That's the second best in the league. If it was evenly distributed, it would be 33%. So they're significantly more likely to score when their first three hitters are up. That's the Houston side of it. And then on Chicago, they have a 4.22 run implied total, which isn't huge, but that, if they were evenly split between all 9 innings, that would be about a 50% chance of one of those runs happening in the first. So they definitely help on that side, but it's really just the combination of the Astros hitters and the White Sox pitcher means runs should be front loaded in this one.
Okay, so we have a Yerfie. What about a Nerfie for today?
Yeah, on the other side of the coin, we have the Mariners versus Tigers, -115, similar line. And this is kind of the reverse of what I was talking about. Matthew Boyd is starting for the Tigers. He's been pretty bad this year, but he's been considerably better the first time through the order. Normally he gets hit around real bad the second or third trip through, and we just need him to get through 3 outs. Both teams are also facing lefty pitchers. They're both on the that's the worst side of the platoon splits for both teams, especially when you just look at their top 3 hitters. So if these teams were facing righties, this would change the projections pretty significantly because I have different databases for left versus right-handed pitching. But these are 2 really good NRFI teams against lefties. And then I'd make this one about -140 on the fair value. So we've got a pretty good bit of wiggle room with most of the danger being on the Mariners side against Boyd.
Well, I know that's not all. You have even more picks. So I would encourage anyone who's watching to check out Billy Ward's breakdown that he wrote for Action Network. Billy, thanks for joining the show. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And like Maria pointed out, we've got 5 picks today. Every day, Monday through Friday, we have a NRFI article.
Fantastic. Sticking with MLB, a bit of upheaval in the East divisions for both the AL and NL. Yankees dead last with the Rays a cut above the rest. Mets only a game and a half up on the Nats. Braves still well in the lead. And Charlie DiSturco joins me in studio. So both of these divisions are just not what we expected in many ways, and we're a quarter into the season. How do you bet these teams? And we'll start with the NL.
Yeah, so we'll start with the leaders of the division, the
Okay.
Atlanta Braves, right? So this team was the favorites to entering the year to win the NL East, and they're heavy favorites now. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Mets have fallen off, the Phillies have started slow, but also a lot of that has to do with the fact that the offense is just incredible. You see with what they've done year over year, signing all these young talents, putting it all together, and Acuna coming back, being healthy and effective. The Braves offense is its strong suit. But when I look at this team, there's some real concerns when it comes to their pitching. They have Spencer Strider, who's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. But then after him, you have Charlie Morton, who's getting up there in age, Bryce Elder, and then that's it. Max Fried is going to the IL, Kyle Wright going to the IL. There's a lot of weakness in this armor of their pitching staff. So it's a matter of how do you attack them from here. And yes, I think they have the offense to keep them atop of the NL East. But I think the biggest way to attack is by looking at the overs. I think the offense is going to continue to hit, and when those pitchers, Elder's a big fade candidate for me, and those 4 and 5s, depending on who they go from the AAA and the minor leagues, or if they go with an opener, there'll be a lot of opportunities to bat some overs here with these young pitchers and struggling arms.
All right, so we have Phillies, Marlins, and Mets. Key takeaways as well?
Yeah, Phillies I'd kind of keep the float, right? So like
Yeah.
they're coming into their own. Bryce Harper is returned from injury. Ranger Suarez expected back this weekend. I think the Phillies are the way you want to attack, but I think you want to wait until they're fully healthy, until you see what you get out of Ranger Suarez and Bryce Harper, and as they all come into their own. Then when it comes to the Miami Marlins, a key stat for you, they're 12-0 in one-run games this season. It's incredible that they have a bad bullpen, yet they are 12-0. They haven't lost in a one-run game. They're second place in the NL East. This is going to come back to bite them. They're going to be a negative regression candidate.
Okay.
I think you want to look to fade them, especially throughout the rest of May and into June. And then just quickly, the Mets, disaster of a team right now. Their pitching is the biggest issue of all. Their offense is doing fine. It's right around league average, a little bit above average. It's their pitching, their starting pitching specifically.
Right. Max
Scherzer hurt. Justin Verlander has only made 2 starts this year. Kodai Senga, control issues. Carlos Carrasco hurt. Jose, I can keep going. It's just injuries.
It's kind of like the opposite of what we saw last season, right? The Mets were really strong pitching-wise and struggled at some times to generate offense. But since you're here, we got to get picks from you too. Do you have an NL East related pick for today?
Yeah, so I'm staying away from the Mets, targeting them more in June because I think that's when you have plus money. But I think the way we're attacking is the Miami Marlins, and they're 12-0 in their run games. We're fading that. We're going with the Cincinnati Reds here. Graham Ashcraft against Yuri Perez. Perez is making his debut. He is a monstrous human being. He's 6'8", 20 years old, making the youngest debut of any Miami Marlin. But this is too much respect for him.
Yeah.
You're getting Graham Ashcraft at plus 120, 125. I'd back that all the way down to plus 110. You're getting him here after his start where he was blown up by the Chicago White Sox. But then you're just saying like, oh, he's an underdog to a kid who is 20 years old, who had a 4 ERA in the minors last year, who is projected to have a mid-4 ERA by every single major projection network this year. And when you look at this matchup, the offenses are interchangeable, right? Like if you look at every metric, WRC plus, WOBA, they're right around the same. The Reds might even be slightly better than Miami here. Ashcraft, I give the starting pitching edge right now to
Okay.
Ashcraft. I think that Perez in the end run will be better, but I mean, I'm not backing a 20-year-old
Sure.
at heavy money here. I'm taking the plus money with Ashcraft, who's had a quality start in 5 of his 6 starts prior to last time out. I'm trusting him. His slider has been extremely effective. As a 184 expected batting average and using it almost 40% of the time. So trusting Ashcraft to get right here. Plus money, you can't turn that down.
And I'm trusting you, meanwhile, but I do. Okay, AL East side of things. I mean, what is going on? I mean, the Rays, they continue to roll.
Right. I mean, listen, if you told me the Yankees were 21-18 and dead last in the American East, I'd say you're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is fine. They're just fine. Don't be worried about the New York Yankees. But let's talk about the Rays in a second. But because they're playing each other tonight. But the Yankees,
Yeah.
right? Judge and Harrison Bader return. Over the last week, they're the #1 offense in WRC+. They are just fine. Luis Severino is returning soon. Carlos Rodon, probably a month away. This team, 21-18, don't burn down the house because this team is in dead last in the American League East. There's these huge issues with other teams in this division, and it's not the Yankees. The Yankees are just fine. Judge, Bader, the offense will be just fine. Tampa, meanwhile, I think that you're going to find a great way to fade them, and it comes with the fact that now that they're such heavy favorites and they're such ahead of the lead in the American League East, they're becoming the Yankees of the last 5 years, right? They're becoming these -150 to -200 territory nearly every game, and you're going to get great opportunities to fade them at plus money. I think that down the stretch of the next couple of months, we'll be able to grab some good times fading them. I just think it's an unsustainable pace, and we saw already Jeffrey Springs go down with the injury. It's only a matter of time before they fall down to earth.
Okay, well, you want to attack that matchup today with your other pick, yeah?
Yes. So my pick, it's a little bit of a parlay here.
Okay.
I'm not a huge, parlay all the time guy, but a 2-leg parlay, 2 heavy juiced legs. I like the Yankees money line and Garrett Cole to get 6 strikeouts. And I'll start with Josh Fleming and the Rays, right? Fleming is taking the mound for him. They're starting with an opener, but Fleming is getting the bulk of the carry. He is a fade candidate. He has a 1.7 strikeout minus walk rate. That is like horrendous. That is one of the worst in Major League Baseball, all pitchers. He doesn't get strikeouts. He's in the bottom 3% in whiff rate. He has a 4.3 expected ERA. There are major concerns for him, especially for a pitcher that when he doesn't strike out and relies on contact, you'd be like, oh, maybe he has a deep arsenal. Maybe he can, have soft contact. Well, he gives up hard hits on nearly 50% of balls put in play. And that's a disaster against this Yankees lineup that #1 in WRC+, as I said, over the last week. Judge back, Bader back. They both crush left-handed pitching. So I like the Yankees to pull this one out, especially with Wander Franco's status uncertain. He left yesterday with neck discomfort. And then on the side of just Garrett Cole, I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. There's no denying how good he's been. 6 of his 8 starts this year, 6+ strikeouts. The last time against the Rays when he got beat up in the 5th and 6th and didn't make it out of that 6th, he still had 6 strikeouts despite the 5 earned runs that he gave up. And I think he's going to get it here too. You go back to last season even. 26 of 33 starts, he had 6+, 79%. So an impressive feat out of him. He's a Cy Young candidate, probably the best pitcher in baseball right now, especially with DeGrom's injury. So I think he is going to bounce back from a bad start against the Rays, and the Yankees make a statement at home.
And as far as New York baseball fans are concerned, they'll have something to look forward to, perhaps with the Yankees, maybe not so much with the Mets. We'll see how it goes. Charlie DiSturco, thanks for stopping by. Always fun.
Always a blast.
All right. Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's a wrap for Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks for watching all week long, and I'll see you back here Monday at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.